Imperial Uncle. Extra Chapters, 4. Deep in the night, I take a walk in the courtyard to stargaze. It has been several days since I moved into the house in Celery Lane. Now that Jing Wei has regained consciousness, he wakes in the morning, while I awake at night. He hasn't discovered me, and I keep a constant control over him. We get along rather harmoniously. Zhang Xiao obeyed my order and hasn't mentioned anything about this house since. Jing Wei has simply taken this place for a secret hideout that Zhang Xiao prepared, and he hasn't asked about it either. And just like that, both sides are kept in the dark. Zhang Xiao has spent the past few days making inquiries and found out that there isn't anyone in Suzhou that knows Jing Wei personally. The only residence close to this one is a small neighboring courtyard house, and that one has also remained vacant for many years. Only after finding this out did Zhang Xiao take the risk to leave Jing Wei on his own so he can go find his master in order to cure Jing Wei's leg. He only left this morning, and will be back in about 3 or 4 days. And thus, Jing Wei and I, one man and one ghost, are the only ones left in this entire place. That makes it even easier for me to wear him down. Jing Wei's soul is far less powerful than I am, but because this body is his, I'm not exactly in a favorable position if I try to confront him openly. All I can do is move things along on the sly. This body is vitally tied to his soul. As soon as he falls asleep, I take over the body and move all over the place. How can any mortal body endure staying up all day and night this way? While Zhang Xiao was present, I couldn't make it too obvious, so I allowed Jing Wei's body a couple of hours of rest a day. His soul has already weakened quite a bit, and now that Zhang Xiao is gone, I don't stop for a moment. Before Zhang Xiao has a chance to come back, Jing Wei's soul will vanish due to his body's exhaustion, and it will become entirely mine. Because his body and soul are both in a weakened state, he spends the day in a state of lethargy. He'll eat a bit, sit a bit, think a bit, sigh a few times, and the whole day will pass him by. He believes that this residence belongs to either Zhang Xiao or his master, so he does what is expected of him as a guest and stays only in the little parlor that Zhang Xiao has cleaned up for him. When night comes, overcome with boredom, I wander all over the house. It's not a particularly small courtyard house. It's rustic and secluded, and left vacant for a long time on its own. So many wild grasses and flowers have grown in the courtyard, the trees stretching untrimmed whichever way they like, giving the place a natural aesthetic. Aside from the rooms that Zhang Xiao has put in order, all the other rooms are locked. Though I'm possessing a mortal's body, I can still use some magic, so when I'm bored I open the rooms one by one and see what's inside them. There is nothing special in these rooms, and all of them are covered in a thick layer of dust. Some are ordinary bedrooms, some are used to store and display curios, some are filled with piles of books, and to my surprise one of them is filled with weapons of all kinds on display, and there are even martial arts manuals stacked on its shelves. There is another room in the innermost part of the estate that looks like a study, the table set up with an inkstone and brushes that haven't been put away, and there's even a page lying there, filled with writing. The ink though has long since gone dry in the inkstone, and the brush's tips are covered in cobwebs. The paper spread out on the table and the manuscript piled on the desk is already yellowed, covered in dust. I flip through the pages of the manuscript. The handwriting is graceful and elegant, but what's written is not some commentary essay nor is it poetry for conveying one's feelings, but a chivalrous tale about itinerant heroes. It's bizarre and bold beyond my imagination. I've only ever heard about the existence of such books before, and have never seen them. I never thought that after all these years of being a ghost I'd get a chance to learn something new. It's marvelous, unlike anything I could have expected. Unfortunately, this manuscript is over before it reaches the end, leaving an itch in my heart that sends me around the house looking for more, finally finding some that are complete. Only yesterday I'd read a chapter and made it to a brilliant part when dawn came. As Jing Wei was about to wake, I had no choice but to stop then. Once I managed to endure until Jing Wei fell asleep, I took a short walk around in the courtyard and immediately went back to that room for the manuscript. I moved a low table and recliner so I could sit in the gallery, light a candle, and read it carefully. Lost in reading, I suddenly sense something. A soft set of footsteps are slowly approaching me. I set down the manuscript and raise my head to see a silhouette stepping through the moon door. I'm a ghost, but this time I've been scared by a live person. I stare and scrutinize the silhouette, and unexpectedly that person turns out to be Lu Tongyi. What? What is he doing here? Did he come to see Jing Weiyi? Or was he trying to find all of Jing Weiyi's accomplices and he's now come to finish the job? Or did he figure out that something isn't right? I search around carefully. Aside from Lu Tongyi, no one else is nearby. I rise to my feet and step down from the winding gallery, putting on a show of surprise. Rancy? Why would you come here so suddenly? Under the night sky, Lu Tongyi's standing silhouette makes him look rather like a ghost, a shadow cast with a paper cutout. Please do not worry, Your Highness. I've left the capital in secret, leaving behind instructions to say that I'm ill and not to be disturbed. As Prince Huai has just passed away, everything over there is in flux and no one has noticed yet. He gives me a faint smile. Actually, I've already been in Suzhou for 2 days. I only arrived a little bit later than Your Highness. The small courtyard house behind this one is also my private residence. A hidden door connects the two. Oh, I smile as well, and grab his arm. Rancy, I got it, it seems you couldn't stand to leave me on my own. Your mind could not be put at ease and so you came after me, didn't you? Lu Tongyi's smile deepens even more. Yes, I'm rather worried and that's why I came to catch up to Your Highness. But as Steward Zhang was around I couldn't openly make an appearance. I never thought Lu Tongyi would be so infatuated as to follow him all the way to Suzhou. I was just thinking about him, and he's taken the initiative to deliver himself to me. As I'm pondering whether I should hug Lu Tongyi and give him a kiss to show my surprise and my deep affection for him, his sleeve slips from my fingers and he steps into the gallery. What were you looking at, Your Highness? I tell him casually, Zhang wanted to put the estate in order for you and cleaned all over the house. He saw these manuscripts sitting in one of the rooms, so I started reading them. I never knew that those so-called heroic tales are such good reading. Rancy, you're not going to be offended that I was touching the things in your house without permission, are you? Lu Tongyi is still wearing that faint smile on his face. There is nothing but old things here, they're not important. If it pleases Your Highness then go ahead and read them as you'd like. He's holding something in his hands as well, and now he sets it on the table. I wonder if Your Highness has eaten yet. Since Steward Zhang just left, the food he left behind in the house is probably perishable, so I brought some snacks over. As he speaks, he opens the paper bundle in his hands. Inside are several kinds of cakes and pastries, giving off a sweet smell. I say approvingly, this is lovely. Let me get a small stove and heat up some water for tea. You and I can stargaze from beneath the eaves. The tea will need to be strong. I smile. Naturally. Once I have the tea steeped, I sit inside the gallery with Lu Tongyi and exclaim, to see you now, Rancy, it feels like it's been a lifetime. It's also rather like a dream. Lu Tongyi picks up the teapot. I've been looking inside this courtyard from the second floor of the neighboring house for 2 days. I've had this question in my heart since Your Highness asked me for help from that prison cell in the capital, and I would very much like to ask it of you. He takes a sip of tea, sets down the teacup, and looks right at me. If I may be so bold to ask, but who may you be, Your Lordship? Holding a cup of tea, my hand pauses in midair. Rancy, what are you saying? Lu Tongyi has a slight furrow between his brows, his gaze is sharp, and his expression, solemn. Since I've saved Your Lordship, I surely won't make this fact public, but all I want to know is who are you really, and where is Prince Huai right now? I watch him in the lamplight. Lu Tongyi has rather exceeded my expectations. I give him another smile. Rancy, you must be still groggy from sleep. What part of me isn't right that it's making you say such a thing? His tone remaining level, Lu Tongyi says to me, in appearance there is not a hair's difference between you and His Highness. Whether it was in the celestial prison or before the body swap, there was no time nor any reason to swap in a doppelganger, but, he heaves another sigh. Your lordship and His Highness are nothing alike. I give him another smile, taking another sip of tea. Then how about this, you tell me what's not alike between myself and Prince Huai, and I'll tell you what you want to know. What do you think? The look on Lu Tongyi's face as he watches me is both complicated and a bit helpless. Prince Huai would never have had such an expression on his face, and used such a tone, to say such things. People can change, one's tone can change, one's speech can change due to having a fresh frame of mind. I have many excuses to refute what Lu Tongyi is saying, but I wait for him to continue anyway. His Highness doesn't like sweets, and he won't eat snacks in these particular flavors. His Highness doesn't drink strong tea at night. His Highness isn't someone who'd go through and read other people's things without permission. His Highness has read the manuscript that your lordship is reading right now. I listen to him as he lists these one by one until he says, the person His Highness loves is not myself. All these things that your lordship has done and has said, he wouldn't have said them, and he wouldn't have done them. I genuinely smile then, and raising one eyebrow I study him. Then Rancy, do you mean you had this question but saved me anyway for no reason other than to solve this riddle and figure out where Jing Weiyi is? Why do you love Jing Weiyi so much? He doesn't love you at all. I already finished telling you my reasoning. Please tell me the truth. The one Jing Weiyi loves is that man named Yun Yu. His heart is full of him. When he asked for you as he was about to die, it was only because he wanted to scare you, to make sure you won't suspect he was faking his death. He was trying to make his escape easier. He'll never tell you he loves you with all his heart. So why must you treat him so well? Lu Tongyi's expression remains serene, and he says gently, please tell me the truth, your lordship. I sneer at him. And why do you pretend to be so calm? Calling him His Highness this, His Highness that, who knows how many times you've called him Weiyi in your heart already? Lu Tongyi gives me a cool look and says coolly, Prince Huai tends to like it when other people call him by his courtesy name. Ah! I'm momentarily startled. Lu Tongyi coolly continues, that is to say, even if I call his name in my heart, it would be for Qinjun, and not Weiyi. Lu Tongyi follows this by saying, of course, I also think that Qinjun sounds better than Weiyi. I stare at Lu Tongyi wordlessly for a while before saying, all right, I'll tell you then. It's up to you whether to believe me, okay? I'm not lying, but you're never going to believe me. The truth is I'm a ghost. Lu Tongyi watches me without any reaction whatsoever. I believe he probably hasn't managed to react yet. I offer some supplementary information. I'm a hanged ghost. I died in that prison many years ago. I stick out my tongue and roll my eyes. Just like that. A hanged ghost. Lu Tongyi is still without reaction, or perhaps hasn't managed to react yet. I continue to give him more details. It's because I was never able to find another person to take my place. Now, you know that a hanged ghost needs another hanged man to take its place before it's allowed to reincarnate, so my only option was to take over Jing Weiyi's body. It's true that right now this body is Jing Weiyi's. His soul is here during the day, while my soul takes over in the night. I plan to not let this body get any rest, making it stay up day and night, so that his soul will weaken and fade away. That way I can take this body over entirely. I finish my explanation and stand there watching any changes that may come over Lu Tongyi. His brows are furrowing again and he looks pensive. See, you don't believe me, do you? The furrow between Lu Tongyi's brows suddenly disappears. I see. I'm stunned. You believe me? Lu Tongyi does indeed look like he believes me. I only believe in the truth. When the truth is before my eyes, no matter how bizarre it may be, it's still the truth. During the cleansing ceremony, Sir Chu Suan, who used to keep Prince Huai company often, was also present. I never was able to figure out why your body is indeed Prince Huai's, when your lordship is definitely not Prince Huai. Frowning, I look at Lu Tongyi, and tell him genuinely, Ranci, I'm truly growing more and more fond of you. Lu Tongyi smiles. Your lordship, you've made fun of me quite enough. I say sincerely, what I'm telling you is the truth. Lu Tongyi picks up the teacup. If that's so, thank you. But now that I know the truth, I'll have to think of some way to resolve it. Your lordship is a ghost. Is it because you have unfinished business that you've possessed Prince Huai? I too pour myself a cup of tea. Are you trying to ask me what would make me let Jing Wei go? I don't have any unfinished business. All I wanted was a body. Jing Wei's body happens to be just to my liking. I have no plans to leave. If your lordship merely wants a body to possess, perhaps there is room for negotiation. Room for negotiation? What, is he planning to arrange another body for me? Or perhaps this is going in a more moving direction and Lu Tongyi plans to take Jing Wei's place and give up his own body for me to possess. I turn him down in one breath. I just found Jing Wei rather suitable for me, that's all. Ranci, why would you drive me away? To begin with, Jing Wei is the man your entire imperial court believes should die, and he didn't want to live anyway, so why not let me have his body? As for you, I know you love Jing Wei, you can continue to treat me as though I'm Jing Wei. Just pretend he's had a personality change. I abandon the teacup and get closer to him. That Jing Wei has his heart full of someone else. I only love you. From now on, Jing Wei will only love Ranci. I'll have a body, and you'll have Jing Wei. Is that not the best of both worlds? Lu Tongyi softly puts down his teacup. Supposing that I love His Highness, even if I wanted to believe my own lies, I wouldn't tolerate a shell with another soul inside it. Everything has its place in the world, and each person has his own path. Why insist on what isn't yours? I laugh. I was a ghost to begin with. Worldly rules cannot constrain me. There are some things that you can have as long as you insist on having them. From what I can tell, you're not the kind of person who is truly cold and cheerless. I pick up the manuscript on the table and flip through it. These heroic tales are probably written by you, right? You're proper on the outside, passionate on the inside. With a personality like yours, and with how little Jing Wei appreciates your good points, perhaps spending more time with me will make you realize that you and I are a far better match. Lu Tongyi smiles faintly. In the few years I've spent in the Imperial court, aside from His Highness, the only person who has ever praised me for being proper is your lordship. He takes the other stack of manuscripts and evens out the edges on the table. Then he suddenly changes the subject. May I ask your lordship how old you are? Taken aback, I purse my lips. If I merely count the years I spent being a ghost, that's already more than I can keep track of. Lu Tongyi sets aside the papers he's organized. What I wanted to know is how old you were when you passed away. What, is he trying to figure out where I came from to make it easier to work against me? I answer briskly, take a guess. But Lu Tongyi doesn't answer me. I rise to my feet. If you want to figure out who I am so you can think of a way to exorcise me, I'm afraid you'll be too late. At most, Jing Wei's soul can hold on for another 3 days. But, I'm willing to give you a chance. If you manage to guess who I am, I'll leave Jing Wei's body. Lu Tongyi looks down, and gives me a slight nod. Sure. I stare at his profile in the light of the lamp, and for the first time I tell him sincerely, the reason why I'm willing to give you this chance is because I love you. I'm really quite fond of you right now, Rancy. Also, you're never going to guess who I am. Lu Tongyi stands up as well and gives me an easy smile. If your lordship fell for me because you read these manuscripts, then you've fallen for the wrong person. These manuscripts were written by my father. He has been dead for many years. He steps out of the shadow of the eaves, looking distantly into the dark night. This courtyard house was purchased by my father as his private residence. It used to be called the autumnal residence. Aside from himself, I'm the only one who knows of its existence. End chapter. Imperial Uncle. Extra chapters, 5. Next day, when evening comes, I wear Jing Wei out so he'll fall asleep before I take out Lu Tongyi's father's manuscripts to read. I just thought Lu Tongyi happened to share the Lu family name, but only once I heard him mention it yesterday did I realize that he's a descendant of Lu Jin. I never imagined that the Lius could have thrived for so many generations. If the straight-faced Grand Tutor Lu Jin, who only ever knew how to deliver lectures, found out that his descendant ended up writing worldly legends, I wonder what sort of face he'd make. Once night comes, Lu Tongyi shows up again. This time, it's with some side dishes, congee, and pastries. I stare at the pastries. Didn't you say that Jing Wei doesn't really like sweets yesterday? Why did you bring these over again? Yesterday, I noticed that your lordship really liked those two kinds of pastries. I laugh. Rancy, you're so considerate. While he's arranging the plates of food on the table, I ask him another question: why did you only come to see me and not Jing Wei? If he finds out that you helped him, he'll surely feel grateful towards you. Perhaps he may even grow to love you over it. Lu Tongyi puts the congee bowl in front of me. I very much would like to know why His Highness chose to fake his death and escape, and whether there is more to the rebellion. But my first priority should be about how to make your lordship leave His Highness's body. Besides, it wasn't easy for His Highness to get away, so to suddenly see me like this, I'm afraid. I stare at him and tell him gently, Rancy, why do you love him? You disregard all else to save him, and now you're still trying to do what's best for him, going so far as to find a way to exorcise me for his sake, but he's not going to think about all the good you've done for him at all. Lu Tongyi smiles at this. I have a lot of reasons for doing this. The biggest reason is that I want to know the truth of this entire business. I was the one who set up this plot to investigate His Highness to begin with, but after he was sent to prison, I checked the evidence thoroughly to find that many parts of it are quite suspicious, and I also found His Highness's attitude in confessing to the crimes rather odd. Perhaps I'm still worried that this case is leaning towards an unjust accusation for Prince Huai. As he says these words, his expression is somewhat grave. These are all his heartfelt words. You helped Jing Wei fake his death in order for him to escape, so isn't that a crime of tricking the emperor? That's why I'm not a loyal official. I merely put a lot of weight on right and wrong, whether he committed the crime, whether it was a fault. There are plenty of shades of gray within the imperial court, but at its very core one cannot be careless. I rub at my cheek. When he's saying those words so seriously like that, he reminds me a whole lot of Imperial Tutor Lu. It's giving me a toothache. But Lu Tongyi is far better looking than Imperial Tutor Lu. Even when he's stone-faced he's still graceful and attractive. With my cheek in my right hand, I watch his brows furrow as he continues to talk about all that has to do with Jing Wei, and I'm suddenly overcome with a need to stop him. So, when he's just opening his mouth again, I close the distance and before he has time to put up his guard, quickly cover his mouth with mine. Once strange, twice familiar, by thrice and Karki so practiced it's natural. I kiss Lu Tongyi for a bit before I let him go, then I lean in by his ear to say, Rancy, let's not talk about Jing Wei. His soul's going to vanish soon. Even if you're doing this for the sake of saving him, you should talk about me more. I step away from him and scrutinize his expression. I grab his sleeve. What, are you mad? Lu Tongyi looks quite the same, and that makes me feel a bit disheartened. I sit back down to drink congee, and Lu Tongyi swaps the dishes so there's another kind of food in front of me. I have already found out a little bit, but it's true, I can't be entirely certain of your lordship's identity as of tonight. He straightens out the lantern's wick. Yesterday, you told me the reason you died. That prison cell hasn't had that many people in it, and I've read all the related records. But as for the causes of death of those who were locked into that cell, the Ministry of Justice's records may not be truthful. That's why more verification is necessary. He doesn't deign to say anything about the possibility that he may not be able to solve it at all. Right now he's in Suzhou, so he can't read the records kept at the capital and check against them. What he means by verification could be nothing more than to observe my speech and action and from there acquire the probable truth, that's all. I take the towel he hands me and wipe off my mouth. Rancy, it's a beautiful night. In the shade of the bed curtains, beneath the silk cover, I may tell you everything. I stare at his expression and add considerately, if you find it hard to adjust to, just pretend I'm him for now. Call me Chinjun, I don't mind. His face perfectly composed, Lu Tongyi says, Prince Huai once knew a Sir Chusun who shared his bed quite often. Oh. Lu Tongyi continues, Sir Chusun was actually a spy staying at His Highness's side on Imperial orders to find evidence of his conspiracy. But he stayed with Prince Huai for a long time without managing to find a single piece of decent evidence. Well. Lu Tongyi breathes out a sigh. So that's enough to prove that such sayings as pillow talk is always true are not reliable at all. There's no need for us to try it. The next morning, I open the hidden door in the back courtyard and enter Lu Tongyi's little garden. Lu Tongyi has told me that he's the only person staying in this house, he doesn't have a single servant with him. In the courtyard, 3 rooms stand behind the shade of bright green bamboo, the doors are open, and the shutters to the windows are propped open. I tiptoe my way to the window and find Lu Tongyi inside, sitting behind a table and reading something. When he looks up and sees me standing outside the window, he looks quite startled. I say nothing, and limp my way to the door, dragging my lame leg behind me. Lu Tongyi rises slowly, his hands on the edge of the desk. I smile. Rancy, can you guess who I am? Lu Tongyi's expression changes drastically. Why is your lordship out in the daytime? Watching his face, I feel a sort of indescribable jealousy arise in my heart. I feign nonchalance. I wanted to see what you look like in the daytime, so I came over. I pause for a moment before continuing, don't worry. Jingwei Yi's soul is doing fine. He's too weak right now, and if I let him sleep some more it'll give him more time before he fades away. It's good for him. Only then do Lu Tongyi's features smooth back into calmness. I look at the things on his desk. They're dossiers and books. You're still working even when you're in Suzhou. I take one of the books and flip through it. And you say you're not a loyal official, you're obviously a chancellor working yourself to the bone, no. I put the book down and fan out a stack of paper sitting next to it. Under the papers with writing all over it is, surprisingly, a huge stack of drawings. I open it quizzically. Some of the drawings are detailed, and some are just a few rough strokes, but no matter which one I flip to, there are willow leaves and branches in them, as well as a person. All the drawings of that person are of a silhouette from the back, or a vague profile. None have the features drawn in detail. The person is either in a long casual gown or in an official's robe, standing or sitting. The pose and scenery in each are all different, but I can tell it's the same person. Some of the drawings even have poems written on them. I can't help saying to Lu Tongyi, don't tell me, are these all pictures of you that Jingwei Yi drew? Lu Tongyi doesn't answer me. He admits it wordlessly. I flip through the pages some more and tell him sincerely, they're so bad. The calligraphy is so ugly. And the poetry, how come they're so terrible? Lu Tongyi keeps quiet. Charitably I abandon any more assessment of these pictures. Is it because Jing Weiyi showed you these that you're so dead set on loving him? These were found in the so-called hiding spot of Prince Huai's evidence of conspiracy. Aside from these, there was nothing else in that secret drawer. And then after Lu Tongyi saw these pictures, was he moved and thus fell in love with Jing Weiyi? I tell him, the one he really loves is Yun Yu. Lu Tongyi's expression remains cool. I know. And he stacks the pictures that I flipped into disorder back in order, one by one. Prince Huai once mistook the one his heart was tied to. These pictures were drawn when he was mistaken. Later, other things were put on top of it, and they were put away in a secret room. A taste I can't quite describe flows up to the back of my tongue. I snicker. Things done with false affections are best ignored. A bunch of terrible calligraphy, some terrible pictures, several terrible poems. Even the stuff I wrote when I was 8 was better than these, by far. He sets the neatly stacked pictures back onto the table. I put my hand on top of his. Rancy, I'll draw for you. I'll draw with all my heart, and I'll definitely do a much better job than he did. Will you love me then? Lu Tongyi turns back to me, and there's a special kind of helplessness in his gaze. Why are you saying a thing like that, your lordship? Why? It's probably because, when I saw the look on his face when he witnessed Jing Weiyi's death, I could not help but feel envious. Only once I became a ghost did I realize that the most precious thing in the world, the most difficult thing to come by, is unconditional, heartfelt love. Jing Weiyi didn't cherish what's good about Lu Tongyi, so what's wrong if I want to take his place, and take Lu Tongyi for my own? And so I tell him solemnly, because I love you. Once again, Lu Tongyi breaks into a kind of generous, indulgent smile. He suddenly raises his hand. Before I can react, I feel his palm on the top of my head, rubbing it once. I abruptly take a step back. A coolness from Lu Tongyi's sleeve lingers on my cheek. Lu Tongyi looks quite apologetic. I'm sorry. For a moment there I couldn't help myself. I'm a bit frozen in place. Lu Tongyi's gaze stops on my face. He lets out a breath, and takes another step forward. He raises his hand again and strokes the top of my head. He's slightly shorter than Jing Weiyi, but when he does this gesture, it is extremely natural. Your lordship, how many years are you from being of age? 6 years? 7 years? 8. While still stupefied I couldn't help myself from blurting out, it was only 5 years. I've been a ghost for so many years already, so isn't it weird to talk about my living age? Lu Tongyi goes quiet. The way he looks at me finally changes, there is a bit of pity mixed inside it. I'm sober at once. You've guessed who I am. Lu Tongyi falls to his knees. Your Highness, please forgive my previous indiscretion. I bend over to help him up. Get up. I'm nothing more than the heir of a grand prince. I'm not even as aristocratic as an imperial uncle like Jing Weiyi. You don't have to use such grand ceremony with me. Just conduct yourself around me the way you used to. Once he gets up, I clasp my hands behind my back and sigh. Rancy, I lost. I will concede and keep my promise. Lu Tongyi stands there quietly. I raise my eyes at him. But I don't know how to come out of Jing Weiyi's body. Lu Tongyi's expression finally changes again. Feeling rather pleased, I put on a face that clearly conveys though I'd quite like to but there's nothing I can do. Lu Tongyi stands there for a moment quietly, then he turns, and moves away. He rolls up his sleeves. First, he picks up a chair, goes outside, and sets it down on the terrace. Then he goes back inside and picks up another chair. I stare at him, amazed as he finishes moving chairs, then he's off to move the table, bringing the tea stove and pot and cups and saucers for making tea, finally producing some snacks to go with tea out from somewhere. Lastly, he drags me to the table on the terrace and makes me sit down. I pick up a lotus flower cloud pastry in a daze, and stare blankly at Lu Tongyi as he makes and pours tea. In the end he sets down a cup of hot tea in front of me and pats my head. It's no matter. If you don't know a way, then I can take some time to figure out a way with your highness. Biting down on the pastry as I watch him sit down across from me, I have no idea why I can feel an urge in all the hairs in my body to stand on end. Lu Tongyi slides the cup of tea before me closer to me, and says gently, "Why was your highness taken to prison?" In regards to this bit of history, the records are extremely brief. All it says was that the heir of Prince Chen offended the emperor, was taken to prison, and died of a sudden illness within 2 days. Ah, so it really was a sudden illness, after all. I give him a smile. The reason is basically as you described. Then it must mean the records differ from the truth. Is your highness unable to rise to the heavens because you were unjustly accused? I shake my head. No. As you've said before, sometimes there is no such thing as right or wrong, black and white. I just wanted to end it all and not bicker about whether I was wronged anymore, but unfortunately hanged ghosts can only remain in prison until someone comes to take their place. But Lu Tongyi keeps asking, "How did you offend the emperor, your highness?" I think about this for a moment. It's been so many years that I've nearly forgotten what the reason was. But I'm going to ask you a few things. If you can answer truthfully, I may be able to remember why. Lu Tongyi says candidly, "Please go ahead, your highness." I look into his eyes and ask him clearly, "Why do you love Jing Weiyi? Why can't you love me instead?" Lu Tongyi smiles, "I'm rather fond of you, your majesty." I snicker. You didn't tell me the truth. In that case we have nothing to talk about. I'm not lying. If it's that kind of love, then it's true. I don't know whether I actually love Prince Huai. End chapter. Imperial Uncle. Extra chapters, 6. Lu Tongyi adds some tea to the cup in front of him. The house that your highness currently resides in is called the autumnal residence. It was left behind by my late father. When he was heavily ill, I accidentally walked into him writing in secret, and thus discovered that he had a pseudonym called Autumnal Hills that he wrote heroic tales with. At the time, I was around the same age as you are now, and I was in quite a shock when I found out about this. My late father was a reserved and upright person, so I never could have imagined that he had another layer of identity. After he passed away, the only person who had knowledge of his pseudonym and this house was myself. I hunted down and read every story he's ever written, and I even tracked down other books that were written in a similar vein. Later, my grandfather took me back to the capital, and I didn't dare let him find out. That's because my grandfather, my uncles, as well as those officials and scholars like themselves all said that heroic adventures were extremely low class, filthy writing, and those who wrote these stories were a humiliation upon the sages, of low moral character. Lu Tongyi says that, on the contrary, he felt his father's stories were better written than many proper essays, but he didn't know whether he was violating the sages' teachings between his grandfather and his father, whom should he endorse. All through this internal struggle he continued to find more stories to read, and even when he went to a palace banquet alongside his grandfather, he looked for a spare moment to read. That's when he accidentally met Jing Weiyi. At the time, His Highness told me that he loved Autumnal Hills' books. He analyzed heroic tales as seriously as someone analyzes serious writing. Only then did I realize that whether they're heroic adventures or the classics, they were all sincerely written by people to express their feelings. It's just that their forms of expression were different. In writing, there is no right or wrong, no noble or lowly, only sincerity or insincerity. And when it comes down to it, all the reasons we come up with to like something or to dislike something merely depend on one's preference. He says that, later, on the day of Jing Weiyi's mother's birthday, he went to offer his congratulations alongside his own mother, and he wanted to speak more on the subject of heroic adventures with Jing Weiyi. But when his search took him to the back gardens, he found Jing Weiyi playing in the snow with the princes. He was standing beneath the eaves, and when from afar he spied Jing Weiyi picking up each of the princes in the snow in turn, breaking off branches laden with plum blossoms, he suddenly understood what his grandfather meant when he said that the Lius and Prince Huai were not people on the same path. What he saw back then was something right out of a painting, but he was destined to be nothing more than someone who appreciates this painting. Some of life's lessons only take one moment to fully comprehend. Lu Tongyi puts down his teacup. I'm far more suited as someone to appreciate a painting. Ever since then, he has only ever watched from afar. Those outside a situation can see a lot of things clearly that those within are blind to. Such as his preferences, such as his habits, such as who exactly has been always by his side, who he truly loves, who is most suitable for him. My gums feel a bit sore, and my brows furrow. That's why you told him the one he truly loves is Yun Yu. I suddenly feel as though a halo has started growing out of the back of his head. Do you perhaps believe that by doing this you're especially noble, especially empathetic, as though you're stepping on a cloud and about to rise into the sky as an immortal? The one he loves isn't me. Even if he's mistaken for a time, he'll wake from it eventually. That way things will only be bothersome for the both of us. I don't want to be placed in a disadvantaged position. He smiles. In reality I'm a rather selfish person who fears inconveniences. I grab a pastry and stuff it into my mouth wordlessly, then guzzle some tea. Now that you saved him, you're not really a spectator anymore, no. The paint scroll was merely about to crease and I as a viewer chose to lay it flat, that's all. I don't want to lose the chance to even look at it. I'm entirely speechless now. The halo behind his head is so bright it dazzles my eyes. Never mind, rather than to grow so weary watching him, why not let me love you, and you can come to love me. It is far more simple for us to love each other, I suggest, my mouth around a crumbly pastry filled with sweet lotus seed paste. I'll kill off Jing Weiyi right now. You and I can have a new beginning. Lu Tongyi's expression suddenly darkens. I laugh heartily. I was just joking. Since you told me the truth, I'll also tell you a way to exorcise me. I stand up and flick the crumbs off my clothes. Go get some peach tree branches, simmer them with yellow wine, and make Jing Weiyi drink it. That way I won't be able to stay. Peach wood expels ghosts, so it won't hurt Jing Weiyi. Lu Tongyi's brow furrow. But you. I sigh. I'll just be outside of a body again, and become a wandering ghost, that's all. If you feel grateful towards me, then burn some paper money and accumulate some virtue for my sake. Maybe then I'll be able to go to the underworld. But, I'm already quite content that you've considered what will happen to me at all. I step into the courtyard and take a look around. When I was alive I wanted so much to come to Jiangnan, but I never thought that once in Jiangnan, in the end all I'll get to see are 2 courtyard houses. Lu Tongyi is still standing in the gallery. You better go find those things soon and make me drink it before the sun sets today. Otherwise, you'll have to wait until tomorrow. I turn around. I'll wait for you next door. In the afternoon, Lu Tongyi shows up as we arranged. I squint at the wine and peach branch in his hands, and I glance at the sky to note that it's still early and quite a ways yet from sunset. I take a small copper stove and a pot to Lu Tongyi to simmer the wine with, and stand there at the side watching. When the yellow wine is poured into the pot, its fragrance rises into the air. I step forward and put my arms around Lu Tongyi, and kiss him again. His expression changes, and I let him go. Oh, it's nothing, I'm just finding it a bit hard to let go. Soon, I won't get the chance to kiss you again. Quietly, Lu Tongyi asks me, what really happened to you back then? I sit down on the steps. Isn't it enough for me to leave? Why ask so many questions? Since you're going to leave anyway, Why not tell me? I give him a smile, but still I don't tell him. The wine with the peach branch in it has been simmered long enough. I approach it, pick it up, and pour it into a bowl. The wine reflects the sunset and becomes sunset stained. I produce a rolled up page from my sleeve and hand it to Lu Tongyi, my eyes fixing on him as he opens it. What do you think? My drawing skills are far better than Jing Weiyi's, aren't they? It's a snow scene that I drew using what Lu Tongyi told me earlier today. It's of him as a youth standing in the gallery watching Jing Weiyi and the princes snap off plum branches. I have never seen what Lu Tongyi looked like as a young man, and I drew him based solely on speculation. But I believe I must have drawn him with better likeness than Jing Weiyi did. You think of him as a person inside a painting, then certainly someone else also thinks of you as though you're inside a painting. I merely wanted to bring Lu Tongyi this painting and to say these words to him. I hold his sleeve. Rancy, do you know why I'm willing to leave? Because when you told me those things, I really did fall in love with you. Really. Sunset's rays slant over to me, and for a moment I'm dazzled, somehow feeling as though he loves me a little too. I let go of his sleeve. Oh, forget it, I was going to see if I can make you change your mind out of pity, but even a ghost has to keep his promises. I raise the wine bowl and guzzle it all down. Then I point at the painting in his hands. The inscription is my childhood name. The body is starting to feel a bit airy and light, and all the ghost powers I've been working hard to accumulate are slowly fading. I lay back onto the bamboo recliner. Lu Tongyi grabs my sleeve. You. Lu Tongyi, the truth is, when you guessed who I was, you guessed wrong. No matter how clever you are, it would have been impossible for you to get it right. I yawn. Right, Zishu was this prince's childhood name. This one's name was Jingsu. I'm supposed to be in the ancestral temple enjoying incense and offerings. You were supposed to refer to us as the Emperor Taizong. The one who actually ended up ruling the empire and going into the temple was Imperial brother, Jing Yuan. Your ancestor Lu Jin and Empress Mother thought this one favored writing and painting too much, and wasn't suited to being emperor, therefore they replaced this one with Prince Jin and locked this prince away in the stone prison as Prince Chen's heir. Jing Yuan and I were twins, but because I was born a moment before him, I had the advantage and therefore became the heir apparent. I never wanted to be the heir apparent in the first place. Jing Yuan was proficient in the martial arts, good at equestrian archery, enjoyed delving into war strategy, and he very much resembled Imperial father. I once brought up leaving the position of heir apparent to Jing Yuan. I was sincere, but Jing Yuan treated it as though I was taking precautions against him, and firmly rejected the idea. Grand Tutor Lu also said in front of father that he must make his eldest son the heir apparent as an example to future generations. But as soon as my father died, the very night I acceded to the throne, my mother and the Grand Tutor had someone knock me out. By the time I woke up I was already inside the stone prison. Back then, that stone prison was very well hidden, with walls on all four sides and a single little door. Mother, Grand Tutor Lu, as well as two other loyalists tried to convince me with earnest words to let Prince Jin take my place, because I wasn't suited to be emperor. They spoke as though if I became the emperor the empire of the Jings would end. What I don't understand is, they didn't want it when I wanted to give up the throne, but as soon as I had taken the throne they wanted to take it from me. Why was that? I knew that even if I agreed and became Jing Yuan, and Jing Yuan became the emperor, I would still never have any peace. I would be guarded against my entire life. It was preferable to end things thoroughly. They would feel at ease, and I would be free. There was no guard watching over the stone room. I was the only one there. I believed that Jing Yuan, Mother, and Grand Tutor Yuan all wanted me to do this, they just weren't saying it. Mother and Grand Tutor Lu even brought me Jing Yuan's clothes, and I was to put them on once I agreed. The belt that was used to close the inner robe was something I had given him. Jing Yuan made a joke about it at the time, and told me it was too long, long enough for 2 belts, but because cutting a belt was bad luck he made do and used it anyway. But I never imagined that it'd be just long enough for my usage. When I was hanging in the air, I really thought everything was over and done with. I just hadn't thought that the whole superstition about hanged ghosts not being able to reincarnate was real. Dying was easy, but after I died I suffered plenty. If I knew that was going to happen, I'd much rather be a prince Jin my whole life and live to suffer several decades. After possessing Jing Wei and coming out of prison, I realized that the realm really is well taken care of after all. If it was me who became the emperor, perhaps the world wouldn't be as prosperous as it is now. If worldly affairs resemble a game of Go, then I'm probably the piece sacrificed for the sake of the whole game. It's true, I do have grievances that I can't seem to simply swallow. The mother who birthed me, raised me, who was always loving and gentle towards me, the grand tutor who was always earnestly teaching me how to become a wise ruler, the Jing Yuan with whom I was inseparable when we were little, everything they did was fake. Is there really such a thing as real kindness in the world? Now I see that there is, only that I never had a chance to see it. Truth is, once the peachwood and wine spell have forced me out of Jing Wei's body, I'm not sure what will happen. I have already left Jing Wei's body. It seems like I will fade away like a curl of smoke. I'm gradually filled with a vague lassitude. Will I vanish like smoke, or will I finally wake up in the underworld? I don't know either. If I get to have another lifetime, I only wish to have someone who would be in a painting alongside me, and who will paint with me. End chapter.